with armies, but with ink-stained fingers and hearts that have bled for the cross. From deserts and catacombs, from cities ruled by emperors and caves ruled by prayer, they came to defend, not a doctrine, but a person. And truth stood in the room, not shouted, but forged. In this we believe, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, of one essence with the Father, and the world could not unwrite it. Arius spoke with silver reason, but truth does not shimmer. It blazes. The bishops stood like ancient pillars, not for themselves, but for every soul that would ever whisper, I believe. And from the smoke a creed was born, not a weapon, but a foundation. In this we believe, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, of one essence with the Father, and the world cannot unwrite it. Arius spoke with silver reason, but truth does not shimmer. It blazes. The bishops stood like ancient pillars, not for themselves, but for every soul that would ever whisper, I believe. And from the smoke a creed was born, not a weapon, but a foundation. In this we believe, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, of one essence with the Father, and the world could not unwrite it. They spoke of the Son, not a servant, but a Savior, not as created, but as Creator. And as the parchment dried, the church stood taller, not by pride, but by truth, spoken together. In this we believe, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, of one essence with the Father, and the world cannot unwrite it. And still today, the creed burns like a star over the church. They sang while Rome feasted. The blood of believers boiled in oil, dripped through cracks in the Colosseum stones, and watered the dust with testimony. Empire against the flame, but the flame does not fear steel. It dances through fire, it baptizes ashes, it carves eternity into stone. Haunted shadows, he outlawed hope and found it everywhere. Christians hid in catacombs, not to escape death, but to learn how to die with peace. They named their children after martyrs, as if to say, try again. Empire against the flame, but the flame does not fear steel. It dances through fire, it baptizes ashes, it carves eternity into stone. Domitian demanded incense to the gods of marble, but those with hearts of flesh refused. He offered survival, but they chose a crown. He threatened extinction, but gave them resurrection. Diocletian broke laws to break spirits. He tore down churches and burned the scriptures page by page. But every flame only revealed what could not be consumed. Every outlawed verse was tattooed on the soul of a people that would not die. Empire against the flame, but the flame does not fear steel. It dances through fire and baptizes ashes. It carves eternity into stone. The empire is dust, but the flame still burns. Not in palaces, but in hearts. They whispered it in markets and vineyards, in prison corridors. They said his name like flame held behind the teeth. Christos, hope with a death sentence to believe, was not a religion, it was treason, it was incense in a tomb. Name forbidden, light unbroken, blind the dust, truth never spoken aloud. They tried to chain the wind, burn the flame, silence the dawn, but it sang from the bones. They met beneath the city, between stones and shadows. Bread passed from hand to hand, wine kissed in darkness. No statues, no crowns, only wounds remembered, and a story strong enough to die for. Name forbidden, light unbroken, blood in the dust, truth never spoken aloud. They tried to chain the wind, burn the flame, silence the dawn, but it sang from the bones. The empire feared them, not for swords, but for songs. They had no throne, but knelt like kings before the slaughter. And when the lions came, they didn't scream, they played. Name forbidden, light unbroken, blood in the dust, truth never spoken aloud. They tried to chain the wind, burn the flame, silence the dawn, but it sang from the bones. It still sings in the catacombs of time.
Remembered, not because memory is perfect, but because the spirit burned the truth into their bones. Matthew wrote in shadows for a people who knew the promises, but not the promise fulfilled. He saw the king on a donkey, he saw the curtain tear. He saw what the prophets had only dreamed in fire. Mark ran with the voice of Peter in his ear, fast, urgent, like the gospel itself. No time for poetry, only impact. He wrote like a man who knew that every breath could be his last. Healed with facts, he sewed history into flesh. His hands once bound wounds, now they bound the scattered testimonies in one beating heart. He wrote for those who never saw and made them believe. John wrote with thunder, he did not describe, he unveiled in the beginning, as if time itself listened. He didn't write a biography, he wrote a door where light walks through. James wrote with fire, Jude warned with lightning, Peter wrote with a lens, as a man who had wept and still believed. And John again saw the sky tear open and wrote what no man should see, but every soul must hear. They were not offers, they were vessels, not pens, but flintstones struck by God to set the world ablaze. No time for poetry, only impact. He wrote like a man who knew that every breath could be his last. Luke healed with facts, he sewed history into flesh. His hands once bound wounds, now they bound the scattered testimonies into one being heart. He wrote for the butchery, only impact. He wrote like a man who knew that every breath could be his last. He wrote for those who never saw and made them believe. John wrote with thunder, he didn't believe. John wrote with thunder, he did not write into flesh. He unveiled in the beginning, as if time itself listened. He didn't write a biography, he wrote a door where light walks through. James wrote with thunder, he did not describe, he unveiled in the beginning, as if time itself listened. He didn't write a biography, he wrote a door where light walks through. James wrote with fire, Jude warned with lightning. He wrote as a man who had wept and still believed. A being heart, he wrote a door where light walks through. James wrote with fire, Jude warned with lightning. He wrote as a man who had wept and still believed.
Constantine tuned a rising sun and saw not empire, but eternity wearing a crown. He called it Nova Roma, but heaven would know it is Constantinople. This is the city of the cross and crowns, the laid on sacred fire, where bishops walked with emperors and altars face the throne. Faith found a palace, and power found a creed. The streets were prayers in mosaic, its walls psalms in stone. From the Hagia Sophia rose not just sound, but light. Here the church wore purple and with golden tongues. The spirit echoed and domes that touch the sky. This is the city of the cross and crowns, the laid on sacred fire, where bishops walked with emperors and altars face the throne. Faith found a palace, and power found a creed. Christ was rising eastward, not away from
Basilicas rose, where chains once lay, and the stone rejected became foundation. This is a decree of light, etched into history, not by blood this time, but by the hand of a Caesar, who saw a cross in the sky, and it did not burn, it blazed. And so the cross adapted through the sun. No more bread passed in caves. No bread passed in caves. Basilicas rose where chains once lay, and the stone rejected became foundation. This is a decree of light, etched into history, not by blood this time, but by the hand of a Caesar, who saw a cross in the sky, and it did not burn. It did not burn. It burned. Lost in caves, the sun. No more blood passed in caves, passed through the sun. They gathered where the sun could not reach, in borrowed rooms, in crumbling cellars, beneath the streets of marble gods. They carved fish on stones, scratched prayers into walls, broke bread like it was fire, hidden in their hands. Faith was not a banner, it was a whisper that's like breath in the catacombs. Beneath the empire, the kingdom grew in silence. No throne, no sword, no stage, only light. Where the world saw shadow, only truth. Where the law called it treason. Children were baptized in pitchers of river water by men who had seen lions and still called Christ Lord. Women preached with open hearts and bleeding hands. Old men died in peace because they remembered what it felt like to see him rise beneath the empire. The kingdom grew in silence. No throne, no sword, no stage, only light. Where the world saw shadow, only truth. Where the law called it treason. Children were baptized in pitchers of river water by men who had seen lions and still called Christ Lord. Women preached with open hearts and bleeding hands. Old men died in peace because they remembered what it felt like to see him rise beneath the empire. The kingdom grew in silence. No throne, no sword, no stage, only light. Where the world saw shadow, only truth. Where the law called it treason. The scrolls were copied by firelight. The psalms were sung so softly that even the stones leaned in to hear. The walls did not echo screams but songs. The ground had held the footsteps like sacred secrets, pressing upward, waiting for resurrection. Beneath the empire, the church was not defeated. It was planted, and the deeper it went, the stronger it rose. Now with all these puppet saints, they buried the word in darkness and walked with chains like wings. He called them pearls, ornaments for the bride. He would soon meet in blood. He heard the lions before Rome saw him, and still he wrote letters, not to escape but to prepare a feast of sacrifice. This is the fire that did not burn, the sword that could not silence, the death that became a doorway, the grave that sang like a choir. Capo was sold, he could have fled, but instead he stood like a tower in a storm of fire. When they lit the wood, it refused to consume him, so they pierced the body to reach a soul already in heaven. This is the fire that did not burn, the sword that could not silence, the death that became a doorway, the grave that sang like a choir. Was sold, he could have fled, but instead he stood like a tower in a storm of fire. When they lit the wood, refused to consume him, so they pierced the body to reach a soul already in heaven. This is the fire that did not burn, the sword that could not silence, the death that became a doorway, the grave that sang like a choir. Justin wrote with a mind on fire. He debated emperors, defended the logos with the precision of a blade, but truth has always made tyrants tremble. And when words no longer fit the room, he gave his life as his final philosophy. Agatha did not bow. They tore her body, but her soul sang louder. She caught Christ, her betrothed, and wore her wounds as a wedding veil. Perpetua saw a golden ladder and climbed it through blood. Felicity gave birth in chains so that her child would be free while she ascended with the saints. They were not afraid, they were already in heaven before the beast arrived. Carry flags or wear swords. They walk through alleys, through silence, with oil lamps cupped in trembling hands. Beneath the seas, beneath the empire, they planted words and whispers and built churches out of breath, bread, and brokenness. Roots in stone, fire in the crowns. They buried the word where Caesar could not see. A silly crew, quiet as thunder, invisible as resurrection. A fish on a door, a cross in chalk, the code of the hunted written in ashes. Children baptized by candlelight, mothers singing songs as they prepared to vanish, not in fear but in faith. Faith, roots in stone, fire in the crowns. They buried the word where Caesar could not see. A silly crew, quiet as thunder, invisible as resurrection. A fish on a door, a cross in chalk, the code of the hunted written in ashes. Children baptized by candlelight, mothers singing songs as they prepared to vanish, not in fear but in faith. Roots in stone, fire in the crowns. They buried the word where Caesar could not see. A silly crew, quiet as thunder, invisible as resurrection. They met where graves were carved into Saints preached with blood on their tongues, walls were passed down like heirlooms. They had no buildings, no cathedrals, only hearts that remembered the voice that said, where two or three are gathered, roots in stone, fire in the ground. They buried the word where Caesar could not see, until it grew quiet as thunder, invisible as resurrection. And when the empire fell, they remained not as rebels, but as the roots of a kingdom that could not die.
They stood before thrones, not with swords, but with sentences. They were not warriors, they were witnesses. Scrolls in their hands, fire in their language, truth that walked through philosophy without losing its soul. They did not scream, they reasoned. They did not flatter kings, they questioned gods. And when asked to bow, they answered with ink and the silence of unbroken conviction. And iron, mind sharpened like flame, faith not blind, but burning with clarity. They wrote in blood, but spoke in light, and Rome could not erase it. Justin stood in marble halls and spoke of logos to men who worshipped reason but feared resurrection. He did not argue win, he argued because the truth was too beautiful to stay silent. They called him fool, they called him traitor. He walked through the blade like a man walking home. Ink and iron, mind sharpened like flame, faith not blind, but burning with clarity. They wrote in blood, but spoke in light, and Rome could not erase it. Justin stood in marble halls and spoke of logos to men who worshipped reason but feared resurrection. They wrote in blood, but spoke in light, and Rome could not erase it. Tertullian laughed at their idols with sentences sharp as spears. He built walls of logic against tides of mockery. Origin searched the soul with scripture and cosmos, and let eternity breathe through syllables that still echo. Mind sharpened like flame, faith not blind, but burning with clarity. They wrote in blood, but spoke in light, and Rome could not erase it. They defended not to